All right, everybody. How you doing? It's News Debate. I am Lee. Good to have you here on the show. We're live over on Twitter Spaces, also live on Stereo. Request to speak on Twitter Spaces. Send us a voice message over on Stereo. We're going to start off with a story that patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporter, friend of the show, brought up on yesterday's program. I didn't know about this story. It's a senator from Iowa. I have the video up here. If you want to watch the video stream, go to bit.ly/NEWZ debate, and those are all the links. And Patreon supporter friend Shannon brought up that there was a town hall from a Republican senator from Iowa. And I think the Republican Party has mostly been telling its members to not have these town hall gatherings, but some defied that sort of directive early on. And I think now, as we've gone on past the 100 days of Trump, more and more Republican Congress people are going back to the town hall format. Whatever the case, Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa recently had a town hall. People were questioning her about this bill that's moving through Congress that, among many things, is going to have some cuts to services like Medicaid, Medicare. And she gave a response that I think you can understand what she was trying to get across, but the second you hear it, and I'm going to play it over here on my video stream, you'll hear it everywhere else. You realize, like, oh no, this was a terrible gaffe. This was something that she should not have said. This is something that she wishes she did not say, and now is having to do damage control to try to say, oh, what I said isn't really what I said. So let's play this video, and then we're going to read from the New York Times. This is Joni Ernst in Iowa.
And yes, and you stated again that as written, and it will change. The bill will be changing. There are going to be some things that we do agree on with the House, though. And you mentioned things like the Medicaid and how some people currently on Medicaid would not be able to receive Medicaid. That's because they're not currently eligible by the original definition of Medicaid, and they will be moved off of those Medicaid rolls. Again, still allowing those that are truly eligible for Medicaid to remain on those rolls. When it comes to SNAP, and believe me, I've focused on this issue, the states have been making overpayments when it comes to SNAP, and this is an issue that has been recognized by both Democrats and Republicans. So this is an area that I worked with Debbie Stabenow, who was the Democratic chair of the Ag Committee, to correct. We did not get the Farm Bill done during her tenure as chair, and so this is something that we do hope to correct in the reconciliation bill. So that's SNAP as it stands now. That again has been agreed upon by both Democrats and Republicans in the past. So when we're talking about the corrections in this reconciliation bill, again, it's corrections of overpayments and people that have not been eligible for these programs by law as it is currently written. So when you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible.
So whether or not you agree with what this senator from Iowa is saying, at this town hall, she's making the case that while there is new legislation moving through Congress and its current form is going to change, that's what happens as you have the two houses of Congress. No one house, no one person gets to say what's happening. It all sort of changes as it goes through the system. That's just the way it works. whatever the case, she's trying to make the point that this is going, in her mind, to just reinforce that people who are not eligible for Medicaid should not be receiving those benefits. And previously, they have been receiving those benefits. So this is just going to sort of re-proclaim that that's not okay, and these people should not be receiving those benefits. Now, we can get into those details here in a bit of what the changes at this point, at least, would actually be. But she's saying, sort of like immigration law, border security, no one has really enforced the rules on the books for decades. So any border bill that goes through Congress would probably just reproclaim we have to have a secure border. You can't have an open border that people can just break the law and come in, and then we give them whatever they want. Plus, there'll be new things. So, to use that as an example, I think that's the argument that she's trying to make here. And you can agree or you can disagree with it. But thus far, okay, this is what I would expect from an elected person in Congress. But there's going to be a moment when you're like, what did she just say? And we're about to approach that right now. I want to say hello to Sports Rumble, who's joining us over on Stereo. Sports Rumble, friend of the show. Leave us a voice message. Let us know what you think. Do you support the cuts to Medicaid that are moving through Congress right now? Or do you think Trump is wrong on this? The people at this town hall who at least are going to start shouting here think Trump and Joni Ernst are wrong. Let's hear more from this town hall.
So they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes, folks. Okay, no, but what you don't want to do is listen to me when I say that we are going to focus on those that are most vulnerable. Those that meet the eligibility requirements for Medicaid, we will protect. We will protect them. Okay? Medicaid is extremely important here in the state of Iowa. If you don't want to,
we're all going to die. So those are the comments that are in the headlines right now. This is an article from the New York Times. Defending Medicaid cuts, Ernst tells Iowans we are all going to die. The senator's flip response in an exchange with constituents about the effects of Trump's domestic policy bill spread quickly online. Oh, yeah, they did. So this is interesting. Let me know what you think. Request to speak over on Twitter Spaces. Leave us a voice message over on Stereo. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check in with President Trump right now. He's my constant co-host on the show. It's a new addition to the program. Mr. President, Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa is getting a lot of attention right now because she said we're all going to die while talking about your proposed cuts to Medicaid. What do you think about that?
Medicaid, it's a disaster, a total disaster, and my cuts are going to make it better. Believe me, nobody knows more about healthcare than I do, and I'm going to make sure that everyone is taken care of in a big league way.
All right, from the horse's mouth. It's a big disaster, and everyone's going to get taken care of. All right. So if you hadn't guessed, this Senator Ernst is a Republican out of Iowa. She had a gloomy message, writes the New York Times, for constituents at a town hall on Friday morning. We are all going to die. She was fielding questions about cuts to Medicaid that were included in the domestic policy bill working its way through Congress. I believe it's through is it through the House, but not the Senate? I think that's what it is. Don't quote me on that. Someone in the audience yelled out that the effect would be that people are going to die. And as we just heard from YouTube, she said, well, we are all going to die, which drew jeers from the crowd. She appeared taken aback by the negative response, as if people would not respond to that negatively. She says, for heaven's sakes, folks. I guess that's how they talk in the Midwest. Democrats moved quickly to call attention to the comments from the second-term lawmaker who is up for re-election next year. This is going to appear on some ads for whoever is running against her. This quote is going to be on TV. The Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee circulated a video clip of the moment, calling the remark stunningly callous and saying that it came as Republicans in Congress were pushing massive cuts to Medicaid that would leave millions of Americans uninsured in order to pay for a tax giveaway for billionaires. I mean, this shows why Democrats maybe aren't winning anymore. It's stunningly callous. I don't know that that's going to resonate with voters. Rethink that comment, Democrats. But I mean, this is such a handout to whoever is going to run against her. This is such a handout to Democrats in Congress right now who don't want this bill to go through, that maybe even they will be unable to screw up such handout, but they're going to probably try their best. The New York Times writes that the sprawling legislation contains a $4 trillion tax cut that would provide the biggest savings to the wealthy and also make several changes to Medicaid, including a new strict work requirements. A nonpartisan independent congressional budget office now projects that the bill would cause around 10 million Americans to become uninsured. We've talked about this work requirement recently on the show. I'm not against it. If I remember correctly, and maybe the New York Times article will get more into the weeds here. If you have children, you're not required to work. And if you're not able-bodied, you're not required to work. So if you have some disability that is recognized, and I think that can be a pretty, I don't want to say trivial, it can be a pretty low-level disability. It's not saying, are you, unable to move your body from the neck down. I think if you just have some disability, you don't have to work. And if you have children, you don't have to work, if memory serves. So this is saying that if you're single and you got nothing wrong with your body or perhaps your mind, you need to work in order to get Medicaid. I don't really have a problem with that. The 10 million Americans becoming uninsured, based on our previous discussion, I believe that includes the people who are not working right now, which currently is not a problem. They can still get Medicaid, but also some of the slop that you're going to discover with any major change in federal government, where the process is going to have some people get screwed over. So some people who perhaps have a disability, but it's not registered correctly, they get told they have to work, and then they have to prove, okay, I have a disability. How long does that take? Do they lose benefits in the meantime? What about people who are not working? They get a job, but it takes some time for that job to be registered in the system, and they lose their benefits. I believe 10 million is not just the amount of able-bodied, don't have kids Americans who are receiving Medicaid and also not working. I think it's that number plus some sort of casualties of just changing anything in a major way in the United States. I was talking about that with Bjorn over on Stereo, longtime friend of the show and supporter over on patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Speaking of Stereo, we have a message now, I believe, from Sports Rumble. Let's hear from Sports Rumble. Take it away.
Well, work requirements have already been part of SNAP benefits in certain states like Georgia. So I don't know how much this changes things because I haven't read this particular bill that carefully, simply because I've been very, very ultra focused lately on the Sean Diddy Combs case, which is very, very interesting, as we all know.
I like that. Sports Rumble, who, despite having sports in his name, loves Trump, loves talking about Trump in politics. Sorry, Lee. I have not been paying attention to this. I have been paying attention to the Sean Diddy oil, Puffy Combs, all the names together trial. That's interesting. That's something I've not paid attention to at all. Like not at all. I've seen a little bit because I watch some news shows and they'll discuss it, and I'll just kind of click off the video if that happens. But I've heard a little bit here and there. Sports Rumble, if that's your hot take, go ahead and feel free to give me that hot take and let me know what you think. Yeah, I don't know enough about it to comment. I think there's always a decent chance in these sort of Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, does P. Diddy have like an oil sex dungeon where he traps women sort of things, that just having that fame and having that money, you can be found not guilty, and you can get away with whatever you've done or just prove that you're innocent, without judgment on anybody specifically. I do think with Johnny Depp, he clearly was the better person in that. I'm not saying he's a saint, but I think what came out in that trial is that he was canceled for not very good reasons, and I hope his career comes back. I don't think it does. I think he's basically done now. But it just goes to show you can't jump to judgment, which is the problem with Me Too, is that most people jump to judgment. I don't think P. Diddy can survive this as a musician and producer if he doesn't get found to be at fault. But I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't found to be at fault and then he just has enough FU money to do whatever he wants with the rest of his life, even though people now hate him. So yeah, feel free to leave me some more messages, Sports Rumble. By the way, Apostate Nate is listening over on Twitter Spaces, and he sends his regards. He's a big fan of Sports Rumble. He says, "Oh, Sports Rumble's on the show. I gotta pay attention now." Sports Rumble always brings the hot takes. And you mentioned something, Sports Rumble, and I appreciate this because, as you know, you and I often disagree. But you may be right on this, so I appreciate you bringing this up. I'm going to share now over on my video streams. Check out all my links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. Yes, as of May 2025, so just now, Georgia is the only state actively enforcing a Medicaid work requirement. It was implemented in July of 23 under the Georgia Pathways to Coverage program. Mandates that adults under 65 with incomes below the poverty level work or engage in qualifying activities for at least 80 hours per month to maintain Medicaid eligibility. So that is nowhere close to full time. And it says work or qualifying activities. So perhaps you could also, volunteer somewhere in some program that counts. This requirement applies solely to new enrollees under Georgia's partial Medicaid expansion. It does not affect the broader Medicaid population. Okay, so if you already have it, I guess it doesn't affect you. because Medicaid is a federal program. I'm surprised that, well, I mean, I guess you can kind of do what you want as states, but I'm surprised that as I was reading this, oh, really? They had a work requirement. So it looks like Georgia is expanding Medicaid. And perhaps because they're expanding past just normal federal Medicaid, they can have this work slash other activities requirements for people under 65. The new Medicaid work requirement also exempts people who have children and are disabled. I'm guessing that might be part of this as well, but ChatGPT doesn't have those details. And once again, this is only for new enrollees under a partial Medicaid expansion happening in Georgia. Previously, during the first Trump administration back in the day, 13 states received federal approval to implement Medicaid work requirements. Okay, this is interesting. However, most of those programs were halted because of legal challenges or administrative changes, and none are currently active. So they tried this previously, and it basically didn't work. But now that Trump is back in power, several states, including Arkansas, Ohio, and Arizona, are revisiting previous efforts to establish Medicaid work requirements. So it looks like states are trying to do this, and also it's going through Congress right now. Some have submitted new waiver applications, while others are enacting legislation or revising administrative rules in preparation for what's to come. However, all these initiatives are still in the planning or approval stages and have not been implemented. So Georgia is the winner. It's the first state to finally do it. But once again, it's only for new enrollees under an expanded Medicaid program in the state. So not quite what they're trying to do in Congress. Yeah. All right, that's good stuff. Thank you, Sports Rumble. And looks like we have another message from Sports Rumble right now. Let's hear from you.
So okay, you asked for my hot take, so I'm going to give it to you. As much as he has some very, very good lawyers, Mark Garagos's daughter, some other very good ones out of the state of Georgia. Even with all that said, all the evidence I have heard, I think he better get very, very comfortable where he's at. I think he's going to be spending life there. I don't see a way around it, given some of the damning, and I do mean damning, testimony we have heard up to this point, up to this Friday.
And that very well may be the case. Once again, I have purposely avoided any news on this, and then just here and there have picked up a few details. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein never went to trial. In my opinion, he was murdered in prison. Who's that really fat old guy who was involved in a bunch of films? He's in prison now. And recently on Bill Maher, he said it looks like Harvey Weinstein, it looks like he's gonna die in prison. What's his name? Bill Cosby, he would have died in prison. But just because our legal system is so screwed up, he was released because of some technicality. But his image, his career, the Bill Cosby that so many people grew up with, that's done. That's all over now. At some point I heard he was like blind now, but I don't know if that was just his defense team trying to get us to feel sorry for him. So we kind of forgot about the fact that he was like a rapist. But whatever the case, some people totally lose in the legal system, and other people not so much. So you're probably not wrong. From everything I've heard jokes wise on comedy shows, it looks like there's a lot of evidence out there. Um, it'll be interesting what happens because this is not, an old white movie producer. It's not even an old black TV star that was beloved like Bill Cosby. This is like a younger, but not young, um, rap artist and producer who some think has had people murdered and apparently has a history of violence that is documented in some way. Um, so having him, uh, if convicted, pay for his crimes, it's sort of like R. Kelly. R. Kelly is in prison now, I believe. But R. Kelly, I don't think had people murdered, and I don't remember hearing that he was particularly violent. It's just he was a very popular black music artist, right? P. Diddy adds some interesting elements to the R. Kelly case. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works its way through the courts. I assume he's guilty. Just looking at the little bit of evidence that's come across my screen from time to time, he certainly looks guilty as hell. But I have to walk the walk and talk the talk here. The danger of Me Too and the danger of we have to listen to every person's accusations and take them seriously is that a lot of lives, a lot of innocent lives, mostly men's lives, have been ruined, have been shattered because we were so quick to jump to conclusions. And so even when someone looks like, oh, yeah, they totally did all these horrible things, I would like to see a conviction or some sort of legal court payout that doesn't result in jail time and a conviction that we can point to and say, well, clearly there's fault here. There's so many dangers of firing people and shaming them and ruining their careers. And it's just been shown so many times to not be true. That even though many times it is true, I don't see the value of basically sacrificing all these other men's lives because, well, every once in a while we get a ditty. I don't like that bargain. I don't think it's American. I don't think it's just. I don't think it's right. I think it's very dangerous. Um, and things have changed. Al Franken had to resign back in the day because he took a funny photo when he was literally a comedian. That was how he made money, and he wasn't just some random comedian. He was an established, well-known comedian. He had to resign. And some Democrats have come out now when it's favorable to do so. So they're not brave. They're saying, oh, that was probably a mistake. Well, of course it was a mistake. Joe Biden, when he was running for president, had a credible sexual assault allegation from a former staffer, a former employee of his, and the Democrats didn't care. So it has changed a bit. And I got to say, while not being a huge fan of Joe Biden, I do like Al Franken. That's a good change. And so I don't think this is happening right now, but whenever you have one of these horrible Diddy cases or Jeffrey Epstein or so-and-so, Harvey Weinstein, a lot of Steens in the headlines with this sort of thing. I'm just worried it's going to start that monster up again where we just have to believe every accusation, no matter the casualties. I don't think that's happening now, but I'm sort of like a dog that's been hit over the head with a newspaper too many times. When the owner raises their hand and the dog goes, ooh, don't hit me. I got that sort of feeling now with these cases because it was so bad for so long. And a lot of men's lives were destroyed. And even pushing aside the clearly innocent guys, men's lives were destroyed who are not rapists and like didn't assault anybody. I remember there was some comedian He had a name that is very noticeable. It wasn't just like, I'm Bill Smithers, some comedian. I think he was a man of color, kind of short. And he got canceled because he went on a date with a woman, and apparently he was like really persistent about wanting to have some fun time at the end of the dates, and they did, and it was completely consensual, and she agreed to it and he agreed to it. But afterwards the woman posted something like, this was really aggressive and he's not a good guy. I'm just sort of generalizing here. I don't have all the details. I apologize. Look it up. Don't trust me. But he had a lot of fallout from that. And he didn't force himself on anybody. He didn't commit any crimes. I don't even think he would be liable in a lawsuit. It's just this woman regretted this night of fun times that they had. And it really hurt his career. I don't know if he's been able to come back. Was it Aziz Ansari, something like that? I apologize if that's not him, but it's a shorter guy of color, if I remember correctly. And this was a huge deal. So it's not just the guys who are completely innocent. It's also the guys who, okay, maybe they're not the best person in the world. Like maybe he was kind of like, hey, baby, I know you're not into it, but you'll be into it in a few minutes. Like, didn't commit any crimes, but okay, this lady didn't appreciate it after the fact, and his life was kind of ruined. So there's a lot of dangers here, is what I'm trying to get across. And even though P. Diddy looks very guilty, let's just make sure that there's a trial and all that takes place, and then let the people come out with their pitchforks, and have at him in a legal, sanctioned way. That's all I'm trying to say. Let's jump back over here to stereo. Got some more comments. Let's hear from Sports Rumble again.
Oh, Lee, that's the other interesting thing. The proper agreement with Keefy D apparently has been leaked. And Diddy, or Sean Diddy's name, is in that proffer agreement 70 times.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that agreement is, but okay, he's in some agreement. Let's hear again from Sports Rumble.
Yes, Harvey Weinstein's an interesting case because Harvey really only got convicted on a couple cases. Now, why? Because there were some victims that could not identify that Harvey had, excuse my language, but no nuts. Therefore, some cases were thrown out because they could not identify that, and he had been this way for a long time thanks to gangrene.
Yeah, I didn't know that detail. I haven't heard that one, but whatever the case, yeah, I mean, I guess if you say someone raped you or drugged you and raped you, whatever the horrible things that Harvey Weinstein did, and then you can't identify his junk, okay, that's a bit of a smoking gun, or I guess lack of a smoking gun. But I guess with Harvey Weinstein is that he was such a horrible guy so many times over, it didn't matter. Like Cosby had so many people who came forward. I think a lot of people came forward with Harvey Weinstein as well. I didn't pay attention to that one as much as Cosby. I really liked Cosby growing up. So that one I particularly paid attention to and was very distraught over it, how horrible childhood memories were shattered by that. But yeah, whatever the case, eyewitness testimony sometimes can be damning. I think the facts have come out. Statistically, eyewitnesses get things wrong all the time, and you really can't trust eyewitness testimony apparently in a court of law. So now it's video. Where's the video? Where are the photos? Once there's a Black Mirror episode where people basically have video cameras in their eyeballs at all times, and they can go back like with a remote and view that footage. Once that happens, I have no idea when that sort of things would happen, but of course, I think that's within reach in the next several hundred years. I don't have a problem with that actually becoming a reality. I think that's very plausible. But whenever that happens, it's going to really change these sort of court cases. Okay, well, Mr. Diddy, we have 5 women who say you raped them. Uh, Roll the footage. I mean, that's going to really change things. So technology, while that's scary, the idea that everybody would have video cameras in their eyes, technology can really clear things up. I mean, if you're in college today and you need to write some sort of paper versus 20 years ago, the skill set you need to have today is completely different versus 20 years ago. Today, you have to be able to use the internet. 20 years ago, they still had computers, but today you have to really be able to use the internet, and you have to be able to use Chat GPT in a way that you use it enough to write your paper easily, but not too much that you get in trouble. And from what I've been hearing and reading, apparently schools can't really enforce no AI on papers anymore because it's become so rampant that if they did, they would kick out like a ton of students, which they cannot do. And secondly, it's becoming harder and harder to tell who's using AI to write like basically their entire paper and who's just using AI to help organize and edit their paper, which I don't think is something a school would really have a problem with, considering how much more cheating is going on with AI than just organizing your thoughts, finding sources, and those sorts of things. So once again, you can argue, and we've had this discussion on the show in the last, I don't know, 5 months or something, that these skills are not being learned anymore, and that's a problem. I would argue that technology is just improving college for the better. If you can use Chat GPT and that's always going to be around in some form, what's the problem with using that to write your paper? It's like telling someone they have to use a typewriter or write it with a pen by hand. So to go back to Diddy and all that horribleness, as technology improves, okay, there's some scary stuff like maybe kids don't know how to write papers anymore, but they can write them even better with ChatGPT. I would say that's an improvement, but I could see both sides of the argument. And then if there's a Diddy trial in 500 years, Diddy the 19th or whatever it would be, and they can just roll the footage in the women's eye cameras, that's scary because the footage of everything you do might be available, but it really does make trials like this a lot easier to decide guilt. Let's hear from Shalom over on stereo.
Sorry about that. Woody Allen, yes.
Or actually, that was the second comment. Let's play the first comment.
Hello, sir. Good day. I'm not a very bright person. In fact, quite the reverse. And I think I'm alone here, or seem to be. It seems to be everybody knows everything, where I don't know anything. So, Diddy, I can make a joke there, Diddy or Diddy not. I have absolutely no idea if he's guilty or innocent. I would be hopeless on a jury. Really, hopeless.
And then Shalom will play your second comment here in a bit. But aside from the self-deprecation humor that you threw out there, I'm not so sure. From what little I know of the trial and what Sports Rumble has thrown out here, and just looking up a few things now as I'm doing the show live, I don't know. There's a lot of evidence. I'm not so sure it would be difficult to be on a jury for this trial. I think there's a lot of evidence. I think the problem is not assessing guilt, but assessing guilt within the legal system. So they have very specific charges, and the instructions will be, does his guilt match these charges? It's not, is he guilty of a bunch of things? It's, does it match these exact charges? And what happens oftentimes is, if during the trial, the prosecutor feels that they've been unable to convince the jury of the exact charges that are on the books, they will lower the charges to still guilty, but in a way that the jury will find it much easier to convict them. So something like that could happen. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of evidence here. But I don't know that it's going to be hard to assign guilt. I think it's just going to be hard to assign exact guilt based on charges. And so if that's what you meant, then yeah, I would kind of agree with you. But I don't know. I think the people on the jury are it looks like things are not going to go Diddy's way. Let's hear again from Shalom.
Sorry about that. Woody Allen, yes. Child molestation, claim was investigated by New York and Connecticut Child Protective Services, and in their view, the professionals said that he was probably coached. We have nothing to suggest that he was guilty of that crime. But if you ask the average person, they will say guilty 100%. I don't know what it is about people.
Well, that's a jump. I'm not sure that is connected to Diddy. So I just asked ChatGPT, and I'm going to share this now over on my video stream. If you want all my links, go to bit.ly/NEWZ debate. I don't know anything about trials or guilt for Woody Allen, but in my mind, he's always going to be a creep. And that's because I said, did he marry his daughter? And I said, no. He married Soon Yi Previn, who is the adopted daughter of his former partner, actress Mia Farrow, and her ex-husband, a conductor named Andre Previn. Allen and Farrow were in a relationship from 1980 to 1992, but they never married or lived together. I'm sure they spent a lot of time together, but maybe their addresses were never the same. Allen did not adopt Soon Yi, nor was he ever her legal guardian. However, she was the daughter of the woman he was banging for 12 years. I think that's enough for me. And then it says the relationship between Allen and Soon Yi became public in 1992 when Farrow discovered nude photos of her adopted daughter in Allen's possession. Creepy. At the time, Allen was 56. Soon Yi was about 21. They married then in 1997 when he was 62 and she was 27. The marriage sparked significant controversy due to the unconventional family dynamics, thanks ChatGPT, and the age difference between the two. The age difference doesn't bother me at all. I am not at all, 0%, not 1%, 0% uninterested with the age difference. Doesn't matter to me at all. She was the adopted daughter. I believe she's Asian, so clearly doesn't look like her parents. Adopted daughter of the woman he was in a relationship with for 12 years. That's not okay. When did their relationship begin? Well, Mia Farrow found the naked photo when approximately Soon Yi was 21. Okay, so maybe the photo itself is not a crime, but when was the first time he kissed Soon Yi? When was the first time they had an evening together? This is really, really not looking good for Woody Allen. It doesn't mean he's not talented, but no, he's always going to be a bad guy in my mind. Once again, if you marry someone the day they turn 18, I don't care, because that's when you become an adult. And I think that we should pick a time and say you're an adult and not water it down. Doesn't bother me at all. But the daughter of the woman you're banging for 12 years and you keep it a secret, so you're cheating on your longtime girlfriend with her adopted daughter. I mean, I guess I would say it is a bit of a silver lining that they ended up together. They got married. So you could say, well, his love was true. But like, no, that's not, no. Mm. Sun Yi has stated that Alan was never a father figure to her, emphasizing that she already had a father and that Alan was simply her mother's boyfriend. Alan has also maintained he was not a paternal figure during her upbringing. Yeah. No, I don't know if he committed a crime because once again, if he started cheating on his girlfriend when her adopted daughter was 18 or whatever the age of consent might be, but I mean, if he has a naked photo of her that is more 18 as opposed to the age of consent, no, that's it's the daughter part. Like that's like he's got to know. Think about this. I mean, he's a famous director, actor guy, or whatever. He would have to know that the actions he was engaging in, if they got out, would look really bad. So it's not just some guy who lives in Texas and he's dating a woman and she has an adopted daughter and he's like, well, I got the hots for her daughter more than I have for her. Then they have an affair. That's bad enough, but he's a guy that could just move to Florida and no one would know who he was and he could start over. Woody Allen knew that what he was doing could ruin his career. I don't know that it did, but it certainly gave him a really bad name. And I think it did hurt his career for a long time. I don't know what he does now. Clearly, he's made movies since that time. So he was able to come back. But like, I think a lot of people just feel the way I do. And they're like, nah, he's not a good guy. So he was so into his girlfriend's adopted daughter that he could not help himself and had to have a relationship with her. That tells me that he really has a problem with those feelings because he would not want to ruin his career. No one in that position would want to ruin their career. And he did it taking that chance anyway. That tells me there's more to the story than what we just got from ChatGPT. I don't know that for a fact, but it tells me there's probably a lot more to the story. And if we knew everything that occurred between him and his girlfriend's daughter, maybe he did commit a crime. At the very least, I would not trust him with children. I would not trust him um, in many ways. But it seems like he didn't have a Harvey Weinstein, he didn't have a Bill Cosby, he didn't have a R. Kelly. He was able to get past it, and he's made movies since that time. So weird that you brought up Woody Allen. I didn't see that. That came out of left field. But now that you have, that's a really interesting story to discuss. So thank you for that. But yeah, I don't see defending him as the right move. The way that I heard you defend him a bit. Um, it seems like he probably, at the very least, is not someone you want to be around. And more likely, in my mind, he could have committed a crime. I think that's very possible, but I just don't have any more information about that. All right, we got another message over on stereo from Shalom again.
What you've been speaking about Woody Allen is something different than what I mentioned. There was claims by Dylan Farrow, Mia's adopted daughter, that he molested her. Right? This is what I mean about Connecticut social services and New York social services, police departments, and they're the ones who concluded that Dylan Farrow was probably coached. We have nothing to suggest Woody Allen's guilty of child molestation. Does that make sense? But if you ask people, they're very quick to say 100% guilty. But somebody who is creepy, somebody who has a relationship with a mother then daughter, that does not make them guilty of child molestation. That wouldn't be presented in a court as credible evidence for the charge.
I'm not so sure about that. And I'm going to go ahead and say you didn't really explain that well the first time. So the way I responded to your first couple comments were, I thought, pretty standard. So I'm sorry I wasn't discussing what you thought I should be discussing. But yeah, just give me a little bit more help next time, because I didn't get that at all. I don't think that in a court of law, if you said this guy was banging his girlfriend's adopted daughter, and there's some contention that maybe that happened while she was a minor, I don't think that's something you couldn't talk about in a court of law. I would have to disagree with you. I think that can go to character assessment. You can talk about things that are facts, and he did have what they both say was a consensual relationship, while he was also in a relationship with her mother. And there's a huge age difference. I do not believe that would not be allowed in a court of law. So I will absolutely disagree with you there. Let's go back to ChatGPT. Now, it doesn't mean that he's guilty of other crimes just because of that, but I think it does give you some character information about the man. So ChatGPT, yes, Woody Allen was accused of child molestation in 1992. Mia Farrow, so this was when she found out that he basically was banging her other daughter, alleged that Allen sexually abused their adopted daughter, Dylan Farrow. So I guess she has a lot of adopted daughters, when she was 7 years old. The alleged incident occurred in Connecticut. Allen has consistently denied the allegations, saying that Farrow fabricated them out of vindictiveness, which, okay, perhaps possible. I mean, you were banging her other daughter. But to say someone's a child molester is a pretty big deal. So I wouldn't jump to that conclusion that it's made up because she wanted revenge. But okay, in the realm of possibility. It was investigated by the New Haven people, as well as New York Department of Social Services. Yeah, they determined that the girl had not been abused, and suggested the statements may have been influenced or imagined. However, their methods faced criticism, and the other department found no credible evidence. In 1993, there was a custody ruling. A judge denied Allen custody of Dylan, and Moses, I guess that's another kid the couple had together. I don't know. Citing Allen's inappropriate behavior with Dylan. So the judge said there's evidence you had inappropriate behavior, but stopped short of confirming sexual abuse. Dylan Farrow has maintained her allegations as an adult. She publicly reiterated them in a 2014 open letter and in the 2021 HBO documentary series Allen v. Farrow. Allen continues to deny any wrongdoing. No criminal charges have been filed. And then it has a video. Dylan Farrow says as an adult that she was sexually assaulted by Woody Allen. I got to say, that's pretty damning. I guess she was 7. It's hard to imagine remembering details when I was 7, but maybe if I had been molested, that would be a different circumstance that I could remember very well. Into adulthood, she says she was sexually assaulted by Woody Allen. That's pretty damning to me. And I got to say, if this guy was not a famous director, and if he didn't have a lot of money, I think he could have been convicted. If this was just a guy, I feel like he would have gone to jail for this. Just my 2 cents. I don't know about this case. Shalom brought it up. It's very interesting. But while there were some authorities who said they found no evidence and they thought the child might have been coached into saying this, there were some criticisms of their methods. And this girl, as an adult, says, "Oh yeah, this happened to me." Uh, yeah. Now, to go back to what I said earlier, to my Me Too criticism, is that you can destroy, and a lot of innocent men's lives have been destroyed because of Me Too and us jumping to conclusions just because someone says something happened. So I don't know that now you can just say, well, this child as an adult says it happened, therefore he did it. Um, and it's probably been too long with evidence and stuff, so there'll probably not be a way to figure this out ever. But at the time, you have a guy who had an affair that's not debatable with a girl much younger than him who was literally the daughter of the other woman he was banging. And then it comes out that there's an accusation that he sexually molested yet another child of his girlfriend. Um, that I think to a normal guy without money and without fame, I think that's the nail in the coffin. I think he would have gone to jail for that. And if that was made up and not true, that's too bad. But my guess is, if I have to be an armchair historian based on ChatGPT, I think his money and fame um, prevented that from happening. But if he was innocent, okay, maybe that was a good thing. But he's not innocent of marrying the daughter of his girlfriend of 12 years, who he secretly had an affair with and had naked photos of. That he is not innocent of. Now, that's not a crime as described, but he did that. So once again, it goes to character, and it goes to who is the person that we are accusing of a crime in theory. And I think that his character doesn't stand up in this sort of. Now, if you said he's accused of tax evasion, I don't know what that has to do with tax evasion. So maybe his character profile is wiped clean. But anything related to Mia Farrow's children, yeah, he has some character problems there. Oh, hey, it's Shannon. She's joining us now over on Twitter Spaces. How you doing, Shannon? Wow, I bet you were surprised by this talk.
I heard tax evasion. I don't know who we're talking about. Are we talking about someone from Pardon or just Trump himself?
Yeah, we got some comments over on Stereo. I actually opened up with the Iowa lady who said that we're all going to die, because that was one of your hot takes from yesterday. And then Sports Rumble, who you might remember, he joined us. He's still with us over on Stereo, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know about that, Lee, but I've been paying attention to P. Diddy." So we started talking about that. And then this other guy, Shalom, I recognize the voice. You might recognize the voice as well. Someone I've engaged with on Stereo before. He started talking about Woody Allen. And that's where we are now. I don't, this was before my time. This was not something I experienced watching TV and hearing about this, but it's a very interesting set of circumstances. He did have an affair with his girlfriend of 12 years, her adopted daughter. He did have a naked photo or two, if not more, of her, but that was when she was around 21. And so technically there's no crime there. It's just creepy as fuck. And he was also accused of child molestation. And the 7-year-old who accused him then in 1992, still as an adult, says it did happen. Has done interviews, was part of a documentary, says that Woody Allen sexually assaulted them. So it's a very interesting case. Do you have any thoughts on this? I know this is a weird puddle to step into.
No, he's gross. No.
Woody Allen's gross, right? I'm not weird by saying that. Like I have a bad feeling about Woody Allen now.
Yeah, I never liked any of his movies. I thought he was weird. I don't know. Never.
Oh, really. I've seen some of his movies. Yeah, I've liked some of them. Yeah.
I can't think of one I liked, and I've seen like many of them because we have a 99-cent theater in town. So like, they would come in. Well, when I was a kid, we had a 99-cent theater in town, And every week they changed the movie. It seemed like at least once a month it was a Woody Allen film. No, not that often, but it seemed pretty often.
Come on, children, gather with your 99 cents as we watch a Woody Allen. Wait, that's not a good idea. That doesn't sound like a fun idea at all. But wait, he'll actually be at the theater. Children, come see. No, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Wait, did he marry his stepdaughter? Was he the one?
It wasn't his stepdaughter because he wasn't married, but Mia Farrow, his girlfriend of 12 years. So they were banging for 12 years. She had an adopted daughter who was Asian, so didn't look like her. And they broke off their relationship because in 1992, when the daughter was like around 21, she found naked photos of her daughter that Woody Allen had. And then like 5 years later, they got married. And the two have always maintained that it was a consensual relationship. But it's not hard to imagine that sometime in the 12 years, his first sexual encounter with his girlfriend's adopted daughter may have been when she was underage. And at one point, did they start exchanging naked photos? How old was she then? So it's not hard to imagine that he could have committed a crime, but I don't think was ever charged with a crime. He certainly wasn't convicted of a crime. But then around the same time, one of Mia's other children accused him of molesting them. And so that's something that the child now as an adult says, even to today, still says happened and was real.
Yeah, I the kids. You're still taking advantage of the child. You raised the child. Looks up to you. Should look up to you in a fatherly way, not a husband way.
Well, I don't know. Soon Yi or whatever her name, she says that he was not a father figure to her. That was never a father figure. 12 years. Never a father figure. So
yeah, I don't believe that. Well, maybe not. Maybe because he started real
he was
early.
Always this attractive older guy walking around with his glasses and his thin body. Never a father figure.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. If I was a child and he was in my life 12 years, it should be a father relationship, right? In some way. Not, hey, I want to go sleep with him.
I think that would be the natural situation, that this guy who's with your mom for 12 years is some kind of father figure, especially a successful guy like Woody Allen. But no, I guess that was not the case. I don't know.
That's freaking weird. Sort of like what Roman Polanski too. He ran away from the U.S. right because he slept with a 16-year-old.
Yeah, but he's accused of raping like a really young girl, right?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember the good time because that's before my time. Roman Polanski and Sharon
But
Tate.
yeah, he had to like flee the U.S. to avoid prosecution. Right. Like no one. Woody Allen didn't have to flee to defend Woody Allen for 1 second here. What he's accused of doing is, in addition to things he did that were completely legal, I think Roman Polanski is like a child rapist, basically. So, or accused of, you should say. So,
right.
That's a bit different. But yeah, it's along the same thing. Someone who's in film, who's really popular and well known, and for whatever reason, I think probably, if I remember correctly, there's like undeniable facts around Roman Polanski that are also creepy. But that was my question about Woody Allen. It's like all the things he did that were legal, he had to have known that could end his career. But he was so into his girlfriend's adopted daughter that he did it anyway. That's what really bothers me about Woody Allen. Is that he risked it all.
Roman Polanski was actually convicted.
Oh, he was. And that's why he fled. Oh, crap. Let me look this up. I didn't know that.
I just had to look it up. I didn't remember the exact thing. Guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor under 14, sorry. But his charges were rape by use of drugs, perversion, sodomy, lewd and lascivious act upon a child under 14, unlawful sexual intercourse of a female
Jesus.
And
He
for
pleaded guilty in 1977. So he pleaded guilty.
okay, I was 3. I was not. I was around, but wasn't reading the newspaper yet.
He accepted. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not. Yeah, you didn't get all the detail. He accepted a plea deal, pleading to a lesser charge of unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor, which is statutory rape, in exchange for dismissal of other charges, which was rape by use of drugs, perversion, sodomy. Yes, like you were saying, and giving drugs to a minor. But he fled in early 1978 because the judge might renege on the plea deal and sentence him to more time than expected. So I guess the plea deal was not inked on paper. It was just sort of like a handshake, and maybe the judge would go a different direction. So he fled the United States to France and has lived in exile since. Oh, Jesus Christ. This guy is an international criminal. France does not extradite its citizens. He holds dual French and Polish citizenship. Wow.
Yeah.
In 2010, he was arrested in Switzerland but was not extradited after a legal battle. U.S. authorities still consider him a fugitive. See, okay, this is a weird direction to go, but this is why Trump is right. Our allies, France is a huge ally, and they won't extradite like a convicted child rapist. Like, you know, Canada, okay, is maybe our big ally, and maybe they didn't do this. So Trump's attacks on Canada and trying to get them to be part of the United States still make no sense. But when he says our allies are not doing their fair share for all the things that we do for them, this is a glaring reason why he's correct. Like, that's crazy. We rescued France from World War II when they shat their pants and surrendered to Germans after 2 minutes. So something ridiculous like that. And then all the things we've done for them since, and they won't even extradite a convicted child rapist back to the United States.
No, but he did bring back Andrew Tate.
Was that from Romania?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it's bad when
Well, he's gonna
Romania
do
is a
it on
bigger
both
friend
sides.
to the United States than France.
It's not like we have a big art sculpture in New York or anything from them.
Oh, you mean the Statue of Liberty, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe Trump gives it back. Well, that's terrible. Say that again about French vampires? What was this?
Oh, I said, what did Romania give us? Vampires?
Yes, vampire statue. Apostate Nate tweets, why the F did we import the Tate brothers? Yeah, I don't know much about them. I guess we could, this is the show of really strange twists and turns. Started talking about the Iowa lady who said we're all going to die. Went to P. Diddy and Woody Allen and Roman Polanski and now to the Tate brothers. Wow, this is the show that just keeps on giving. God, that's horrible, Roman Polanski. But yeah, okay. So in all fairness to Woody Allen, he did not do this. Whatever he did not do this. That's a horse of a different color, and that's a horse that we should beat to death.
Do you think he just like went insane with Sharon Tate, or after Sharon Tate died, because she was pregnant with his child? You know,
I don't know about the Tate brothers. I have no idea what that story is.
Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. Sharon Tate was married to Roman Polanski. She was going to have her baby, and then the Manson family killed her.
Oh my God, he's tied into the Manson killings.
Right. He was shooting a film in another country. She was about ready to pop. She was like 8 months pregnant. And that's when the Manson family came in and killed her and Folgers and the Folger family woman.
Yeah, I knew something like that had happened, and I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which kind of reimagines all of that. But I didn't realize he was connected to that. Yeah, I don't think you get a pass. Like you said, pregnant wife.
Get a pass.
Right? That was his pregnant wife was murdered by the Manson bunch. yeah, that's got to be hard hand to have dealt to you, and like, that's a really bad situation to be in. But then the rest of the stuff, yeah, I don't know that it matters.
No. I don't think it matters. I'm just wondering if like that twisted him in some way, or did he like groom Sharon Tate? I don't know.
Was he always a terrible person, or did that help make him a terrible person? Okay, that's an interesting angle.
That's what I meant. Not that he was to be excused for it. Just
You heard it first here, ladies and gents, on News Debate. Shannon is saying that if your pregnant wife is murdered, you can do anything you want. I heard it. You heard it. That's exactly what she said. No, that was not the case.
I want to ask President Trump, damn it. No. That's good.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm a little worried what to ask President Trump here, but yeah, that's another thing we can do. Really quickly, before we do that, let's go back to stereo. The messages are piling up. We're going to hear from Ella and then Shalom again.
Well, my mum was in a relationship with somebody that wasn't very nice, was nasty. And then they split up, and a few years later, he asked me out and was flirting on me and trying to get me on Facebook and everything like that. And, stalked me. So, it's her daughter, and it was despicable, really. My mum, knew about it eventually, and it was wrong. So I don't agree with the other person saying about it being okay. It's not.
That one was hard to hear. Ella, if you want to leave another message and tell us the same thing, just the volume on that's really low and I'm having a hard time bringing it up. But did anyone else hear? So I think she was describing her mom was in a relationship with someone and then the guy assaulted her. Was that what it was? I can try to play it again.
I couldn't hear it. It was way too far away. It was like it was muffled.
Yeah.
Almost, but
it's not that loud. So I don't know if you can get closer to your phone. I'm not sure what kind of setup that you have. I would really appreciate hearing your story in full, and thank you for sharing it. But it was really hard to understand. Let's go back to Shalom and see if Ella can leave us another message.
My messages keep getting cut off. Sorry about that. I was just asking you, if you say Woody Allen is creepy, have you got criticism for Suni Previn, who is with as well? Are you criticizing her for being with a creep? That makes sense. Just a question for you. And my other question is, if somebody is accused of a crime and he goes to court and they get a knock, but that didn't even go to court. But even if it didn't go to court, if it was investigated and the investigator concluded that there's no evidence for a charge, do you think that person should go through life as guilty or innocent, viewed by other people, I mean?
Yeah, so to talk the talk and walk the walk, like I've been saying throughout the show, if someone is not convicted of a crime, our justice system should allow them to then go back to the life that they had. Oftentimes that's not the case, but that's how it's supposed to be. So I would support the how it's supposed to work out theory. And especially if someone's not charged with the crime, then I would support their life should be able to continue. But then there are egregious errors like O.J. Simpson, who was never convicted of murder. Someone like Roman Polanski, who was given a plea deal, so he was allowed to leave. Maybe they should have taken his passport, so there are problems with the system. Even if you are convicted, he pled guilty to a lesser crime. Maybe they shouldn't have allowed him to plead guilty to a lesser crime. If he was on trial, I bet they would have prevented him from, I don't know the situation. It was well before my time. But to go back to your previous question about Mia Farrow's adopted daughter, who apparently never thought of Woody Allen despite banging her mom for 12 years as a father figure, and then she started banging him at some point. If all that happened while she was an adult, and if he only had naked pictures of her, which is apparently a fact, he did have naked pictures of his girlfriend's adopted daughter. If all that happened while she was an adult, that's not a crime. I still think it's creepy. Shannon and I have a Woody Allen is a creep slogan for the rest of the show, and I think that's legitimate. But if he didn't commit any crimes, he's not guilty of any crimes. But he's guilty of having really, really bad instincts, and I don't trust him with people and children anymore. Not that I'm in charge of whether or not he can be around kids, but I think when you do that, you shouldn't be around kids unsupervised anymore, or maybe around kids at all. To answer your question specifically about her, since he has all the power in that situation, he's famous, he's rich, he's older, I err less on the side of blaming her. But if she did all those things as an adult, I think she shares some of that blame as well. I don't think she's someone who should be trusted. I don't think she's someone who should be around people who think that she's trustworthy. I don't know that she's dangerous around children because she was basically a child. Even if it happened when she was 18 and above, like, okay, when you're 18, you still act like a kid. But yeah, I would share the blame with her too. You know, if you bang your mom's boyfriend of 12 years and you're barely an adult, you have shown really bad judgment as well. But I think since Woody Allen had all the power and had everything to lose, she had very little to lose in that situation. I give him a lot more of the culpability for that than her. So I think that answers your question. Let's go back here and see if we have another message from Ella. Yeah, Ella. Okay, Ella, take it away.
Yeah, hi, sorry about that. Yeah, my mum was in a relationship with someone, and then a few years later, he started stalking me and wanted to go out, and he was tracking me down on Facebook and these different platforms, and asking me out, and really, it was bad. So, he was with my mum when I was 16. He was younger, a lot younger than my mum. He was nearly my age. So it was really a difficult time we went through, to be honest. Sorry about the noise. Okay.
Thanks for leaving another message, Ella. It's still not as loud as the other messages, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but I think I got more of it. If I understand correctly, a guy younger than your mom, much younger than your mom, was with her, and it started when you were 16, and then I believe he was assaulting you as opposed to sexually assaulting you. I hope those are the correct details, not only because I think that's a better situation to have been in, but I don't want to say something that you didn't say. So I hope I heard it correctly. And it was a bad situation. So thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry you had to go through that. But this is why I give Woody Allen much more of the blame than Soon Yi or whatever her name is because even if it did happen while she was an adult, he had all the power. The adults have all the power in that situation. Just like we heard from Ella, her mom was dating a younger guy. She said it started when she was 16, but let's say it started when she was 18. If he was assaulting her when she was 18, he still has all the power. Now, it's maybe lesser of a crime if you would assault an 18-year-old versus assaulting a 16-year-old because you're assaulting a minor, which I hope is a worse crime. I don't know for a fact. I assume it is. But still, the adults have all the power in that situation. So if Ella just hypothetically had been 18 and she was really sick of her mom's boyfriend and assaulted him, okay, that's a crime. But she's punching up. He's older than her. He has more power than her. And as a man is likely physically stronger than her. So that's kind of a brave thing to do. Still a crime, but a brave thing. But if he's punching down on a 16-year-old girl or however old she was when that assaulting started happening, he has all the blame for all the reasons that I've already stated. So that's why Woody Allen, even if he has not committed a crime, still in my mind deserves a lot of blame because he had all the power. He abused the situation. You cannot tell me that an 18, 19, 20-year-old adopted daughter of your girlfriend is going to fall in love with you without you grooming her a bit. I don't see that ever happening. I just don't. So at the
He's 30.
very least, he instigated that. I'm sorry. Yeah, Shannon?
He's 35 years her senior. So we're not talking like, I mean, even Elvis and Priscilla, and that's weird, had a 10-year difference. He's 35 years her senior. I mean, really close to being, could have been a grandfather. Kind of weird. Kind of weird.
You know what? Something about the way he looked like my grandfather just drove me wild. Like, no one thinks that, right? So maybe it's true love. And if it happened while they were adults, okay. Once again, not a crime technically, but that doesn't happen. This is not Game of Thrones. That does not happen. He had to instigate that. Now, she's an adult. She had to return those feelings, okay? Takes two to tango. But he started that. He had to have. And if she started that, well, 1 in a million shot, Doc. 1 in a million. I don't see it. It's technically possible. I just don't see it.
I don't know. I always thought Elvis and Priscilla was weird too, right? He meets her at 14 in Germany while he's in the military. And
I
she's
didn't know that
14.
story. Was Priscilla American in Germany?
Yeah.
Was she
And
like the daughter of someone on base?
I don't know how they actually, but I know she was 14. Well, they said this is their story, is that she was 14 and he was 24. I knew he was going to marry her from then, and moved her into Graceland, or moved her into his house. I don't know if he owned Graceland by the time she was 18, but they didn't sleep together until they were 21 when they got married. So it's kind of another weird dynamic.
Once again, maybe not a crime, but I didn't know this about Elvis. I didn't have a particularly positive or negative viewpoint of Elvis. I got a negative viewpoint of Elvis now.
Or the other one, oh, Jerry Lee Lewis, right? He married his cousin or something. Jerry Lee Lewis.
Okay, so I've heard about the cousin thing, but was she of age?
No. No.
Okay, so that's doubly bad.
13 years old at the time, while he was 22.
No, timeout. He married a 13-year-old? Was this in Arkansas? How did that happen?
Yeah. I don't know how it happened.
No.
Was there marriage laws back then?
Jesus.
Was there might not have been marriage
There were
laws.
laws back then. You couldn't do whatever you wanted. I mean, it was a more free time, but still they had laws. Come on, Shannon, Jesus. Did they have power back? Did they have telephone?
No.
Did they have automobiles?
And then he lied about it too. So I told her to tell the press she was his niece or no. It was weird.
Is that better than cousin? I don't know if niece is better than cousin, but okay. I guess that's a bargain he had to make. Yeah, I didn't have any particularly good feelings for Jerry Lee Lewis. I had remembered the cousin thing. But the 13-year-old cousin, I didn't remember, didn't know about that. That's terrible. Okay, so all of this wrapped together, Woody Allen plus Elvis plus Jerry Lee Lewis, Diddy makes a lot more sense, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
people who have that power and they have that wealth, okay, it's the chicken or the egg. Do you become powerful and wealthy because you're willing to take what you want? Or when you become powerful and wealthy, does it empower you to do whatever you want? That's an interesting discussion, and you'd probably have to get into human psychology and stuff like that. But whatever the case, I didn't grow up with, anyone tell me, oh, my grandpa married his 13-year-old cousin. I think this is a celebrity thing.
well, I've never had it either, but I don't, yeah, it was Mississippi, by the way. They got married in Mississippi. So she lied about her
I
age.
knew
She
it.
said she was 20.
I knew it wasn't in New England. I knew it wasn't in the Pacific Northwest. Wait, time out. If she lied about her age, you can't lie about your age and then have a legal marriage.
Well, I mean, he fled the country too, so I don't know.
Jerry Lee Lewis also
don't
fled
know.
the country?
Yeah, because yeah. I can't remember. And then he came back, but yeah, he didn't face. But yeah, he like 'cause he
Back
got
by
like
popular
blacklisted everywhere, so
demand.
yeah.
Great balls of fire. Man, I don't even want to look this up. I could look this up and ChatGPT could tell me all this stuff, but I'm done. After learning about Elvis and those horrible details and Pete Diddy and Woody Allen,
Glad I
I
came in
don't
and
need to
ruined
know
everything for you,
anymore.
see?
Sorry, Shannon?
I said, aren't you glad I came in and ruined everything for you?
Well, this show was off the rails before you came in, Shannon.
Oh, good. Okay.
But you certainly didn't write it. I mean, like the Titanic was sinking before you arrived, but it sank a little quicker once you were on board. We're getting a smiley face from Shannon. I'm glad that she liked that reference. Yeah, that was good. Hey, Lee, look at these fun references that you're throwing out there. Remember that ship that killed hundreds of people?
Speaking of the Titanic, Lee, can I change the subject?
Oh, yes, please do. But I think we have a message or two that are along these lines that we can play first and then completely change the subject and never discuss this again. Let's hear one more time from Shalom.
Yeah, wide age gaps do seem to be an issue, don't they? No, not to me. As long as two people are adults, the age of the people are irrelevant. I want to see bad behavior within that relationship, you know. But Sidney Prescott and Woody Allen's age gap is large, and I think a larger age gap was Mia Farrow and Frank Sinatra. Interestingly enough, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't start when she was like 18 or 16 or 13, though. So I would agree with you. When you're an adult, you know, if someone's 50 and they marry an 18-year-old, like, okay, like I think Bill Belichick is engaged to his like 24-ish year old girlfriend. I think I saw that headline, but whether or not that's the update, they're dating. That's something that makes Shannon?
Sorry, Lee. No, they were 30
years
right. apart, so they didn't even reach Woody Allen. So that Woody Allen and his stepdaughter were 35 years apart.
Still worse. Still worse. You hear that, Shalom? Woody Allen is still worse. But Bill Belichick, you know, I think he's a genius when it comes to football. He you know, his legacy was tarnished a bit with the end of New England, but still well regarded. He's really smart. You talk to him about football. He's not someone who lucked his way into all those Super Bowls. He's just someone who didn't have the lasting power that a lot of people thought he did. And now he's tangled up with this 24-year-old, makes me think even worse of him. So she's 24, she's not 18. But let's just say she was 18. I think that tells us a little bit about Bill. It doesn't mean he's a criminal, but it's just like, Bill, like, really, you can't find someone who's 35 or 45. Like, really, you got to date a 24-year-old. I think that just tells us a little bit about Bill. And it tells us that he's not concerned about his image. Because if I was however old he is, I think he's like around 70, I would feel like a piece of shit if I was seriously dating and not just like flirting with, I guess, under the table and no one knows. But like when you're walking around with a 24-year-old as a guy who's like around 70, like I would just feel like a piece of shit. Maybe that just means that I'm not a rich and famous person who takes whatever he wants. Read into that as you see fit. Maybe that's why I do social audio and I didn't coach the Patriots to however many Super Bowl wins that was. But you know, Bill Belichick is a guy who didn't care what his image was going to suffer. Didn't care that his image was going to suffer because it was more important to him to bang a 24-year-old. I just think that tells us something about him. The way we've been talking about Woody Allen, I think that tells us some really problematic things about him. Bill Belichick is not Woody Allen, so I don't want to make that connection. But in the same way, like the more you learn about these guys who are willing to put everything on the line so that they could bang a really, really young person, it's like, okay, I think a lot of people are like, oh, wow, look at this Sports Illustrated. Look at this Playboy with this 18-year-old model. Guys are guys, right? That's just being a guy. But to actually do the deed and to one, think you're going to get caught if no one knows. Like, hey, you're Bill Belichick and you got a 24-year-old girlfriend, but you don't go out in public and stuff. We're still going to find out and they're going to judge you. But then to have the gall to walk around and have the relationship that they've had, or like Woody Allen to marry his girlfriend of 12 years, her adopted daughter, after he had an affair with her, which may or may not have started when she was underage. We just will never know. Like, that says a lot about you. That goes past the I'm a guy and I find women attractive. And if there's an 18-year-old who walks by who's attractive, I find her. That's different. That's just being a guy. But to go that far, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that tells us a lot about people. So I guess Shalom and I disagree on this a little bit. He seems to not be upset by that, but like Shannon and I think we're down to party. We can understand this. Like, it goes into the character of people, and it doesn't mean they're criminals. But I'll never think the same way about Elvis. I knew Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin, didn't realize she was 13. Like, that's really creepy. And there's just, I don't know, there's just like things people do, and you're like, nah, I can't be down with that. Like someone who tortures animals. Like, okay, that's a crime. It's not the worst crime in the world, but if you told me, oh, Woody Allen, when he was a kid, he used to torture and kill animals, I'm like, I'm done. Like that tells me enough about him that I need to know. What he did with his Sun Yi lady, who I guess became his wife, it's not the same thing as torturing animals, but it tells you enough about them. And I like judging people. I like not giving people a free pass. I think we should judge, oddly enough, as I say, Me Too has destroyed a lot of innocent men's lives. And I think we should pull back from that. In a weird way, I think we should also judge more. Like this whole, like, don't judge someone on their personal lives and things like that. I can totally support that, but there are some things you can do that are legal that still, I think, deserve a little bit of judgment. And one of the reasons why I will forever be crucified by my fellow lefties in the Democratic Party. Apostate Nate says the Manson murders are also linked to Folger's coffee. Tweet me about that. I don't know about that.
Yeah, Abigail Folger was one of the victims that was in the house. She was heir to the Folgers coffee fortune.
Jesus Christ.
But can I address the person you were just talking to about the age?
Over on stereo?
Yes. So there are age gaps I can get behind, like Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart, or Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael.
Oh, yeah, because she's younger than him, but she was clearly not 12.
Right. She was 38, Callista Flockhart, when she met Harrison, or when they married. And Catherine Zeta-Jones was 39. That's a big difference than 14. I mean, as you get older, the age gaps differ less and less. I mean,
still tells us a little bit about Harrison Ford, to be honest, but it doesn't tell us as much as Woody Allen.
Right. I mean, there's a big difference between a 14-year-old and a 24-year-old. They really don't have that much in common.
Yes, and that's why I apologized. Bill Belichick not confusing you with Woody Allen, but it's part of a spectrum, and you're clearly on the other side of the spectrum where I'm not grossed out by that, but I think it tells us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there are big age gaps that I can get behind, but not when the person is significantly younger. I mean, or
do you know what the funny thing is though? If a 70-year-old lady married a 25-year-old guy, I would be like, yeah, she did. I feel a little different about that.
Wait, a 7-year-old girl marrying a 25-year-old man?
70, 70.
Oh,
How dare you?
70. I thought you said 7. I'm like, what?
If like a 60-year-old lady married a 25-year-old guy, I was like, good for them. I'm like, good for them because once
Yeah,
again,
whatever.
it goes to the power dynamic. And I think that men who are greatly older than their female partners, there's much more of a power dynamic there than the opposite with women. Call me sexist, call me crazy, but I think it's different. At least it feels different to me. That I view them very differently.
I mean, even Trump and Melania, what is there, like 25 years between them? That's fine.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. He is like 25 years older than her.
Right.
Okay. But like he's had multiple wives and she's like a model. So
Right.
that's par for the course. Like, she wasn't the adopted daughter of his previous girlfriend.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If
And I
you're
mean,
going to
if
marry
she was
someone who's much
25
younger than you and they're like a model or a porn actress or I don't know what's a stereotypical like hot, not too bright profession,
stripper.
stripper, yeah, and you marry them, it's like, well, of course, like that's a choice you made, but they weren't they weren't mowing your lawn when they were 19 and going to college.
Mowing your lawn.
Hey, Melania, come on in. Hey, actually, that's a really good point. Let's bring in Donald Trump. Mr. President, so your wife, Melania, there's a big age gap. Can you tell us whether or not that's a problem or if we should not care that you're much older than
My
your
wife is
wife?
a wonderful. The age difference, it's a non-issue, folks. I've got the energy, the vitality, and the brains to keep up with anyone. And my wife, she's a brilliant woman, a real winner, and together we're unstoppable.
There it is.
It's amazing how some people can't even have a decent conversation without trying to stir up controversy. But I'm not going to let that get in the way of making America great again.
Yeah, see, now he's attacking me. How dare you, Lee? How dare you judge me?
How dare you, Lee? You're bigly in trouble, damn it.
Once again, I defend Trump a little bit. If you're on multiple wives and you're super, super rich and you marry a model who has done like nude, what was it? Because when he became president again, some Russian TV show made sure to congratulate him and then show all of his wife's nude photos. So she didn't do
Yes.
porn, but she did some nude shots or something. And it wasn't like someone stole them. Like she was compensated and paid, she was like a nude model. And she's your wife and she's 25 years younger than you and you're super rich, like, okay, that's sort of where you get a pass. But if you're dating Mia Farrow and then all of a sudden it turns out you're also banging her adopted daughter and there's some questions about how old she was when that relationship began, that's less honest. If you're a billionaire and you want to marry someone who's 19, marry a stripper. And I'm just going to say, you know what? You listened to me, you followed my cues. It's exactly what I told you to do. I'm fine with it. It's honest. You clearly didn't marry for love. You married for pleasure, and they're adults. Like, okay, that's fine. But then this whole like, oh, Bill Belichick's in love with a 24-year-old. They're like, Woody Allen was never a father figure to his girlfriend's adopted daughter. They fell in love. It's like, okay, who are you? Who are you fooling here?
But I mean, Trump has said weird things about Ivanka. Can't be wrong there.
Oh, his daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
let's ask Trump. Mr. President, you've said some really odd remarks about your daughter and how she's attractive. Do you want to try to explain those remarks?
I've made some fantastic comments about my daughter, and they've been totally misinterpreted by the fake news media. But let me tell you, she's a terrific person, a real winner, and I'm very proud of her.
Yeah, very proud of her and how attractive she is to other men. Those were the comments he made about her, right?
No, he said if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. And
Yeah,
like,
those sort of things. Yeah.
what do we have in common? Sex. It was very weird. I don't know.
Oh,
It
I
was.
don't remember
Yeah.
that one.
I
That
mean,
one's a bit
I don't know if
strange.
he. Yeah. It was kind of cringy.
All right, let's go back over here to stereo and play these messages because my stereo device is really low on juice and I'm worried it's going to shut down. So let's play these before that happens. And if stereo goes dead all of a sudden, people listening over there, that's why I apologize. I should have charged this before I started the show, but clearly I did not. Let's hear from Shalom again.
Frank Sinatra was 50, I think, when he was in a relationship with Mia Farrow. She was 21. I think Woody Allen was 50-something when he was in a relationship with Suni Previn at 21. So both Mia Farrow and Suni Previn were both 21 when they had relationships with men in the 50s.
So if that holds, and we'll just say hypothetically it does, I don't know the numbers. Okay, in one way, you're right. That's the same thing. However, it's not the same thing at all. Was Frank Sinatra banging Mia Farrow's mother for 12 years and was around her when she was underage? And then all of a sudden, when she was an adult, he was like, oh, I can bang her too. Is that what happens? I don't think so. That's what happened. That's the best case scenario with Woody Allen is he was banging a woman for 12 years. And then all of a sudden, when the woman's adopted daughter became an adult legally, he was like, oh, I'm attracted to her. Let's try to bang her as well. That's the best case scenario. And it could have been a lot worse. And my guess is it was a lot worse than that. So that's, there's a lot more to the story. Once again, if Frank Sinatra had married a 19-year-old stripper instead of dating Mia Farrow, or if they had been married, I'm not sure what the details are. Once again, he gets a complete pass from me because if you marry a model or a stripper or a porn star, you are admitting to the world this is a flesh and sex relationship. And we, as the world, are replying, we appreciate your honesty and it's okay with us because everyone's of age. And by the way, this porn star you just married, you weren't banging her mom for 12 years while she was underage. So, barring that situation, if you're honest about it, I'm going to be honest right back and say, good for you, sir. But that's not usually the case, right? That's not the case with Bill Belichick. Now, he's dating a 24-year-old, so it's a much different situation. That was not the case with Woody Allen.
I'm sorry, Lee. I was going to say it as, and, Danielle, the younger daughter of Mia Farrow there, brought sex abuse charges against him. So did big
Oh yeah, that's right. We talked about that earlier, but the younger child was 7 and said that Woody Allen molested them, and as an adult has never gone back on that statement. They have been part of a documentary and something else that we mentioned earlier in the show, and to this day they say Woody Allen sexually assaulted me when I was a child.
Yes.
And stereo has died, so I apologize. They're not hearing me, but over on stereo, that's my fault. We had one more message from Shalom, and we didn't get to it. Dang it. We'll be robbed of that beautiful insight.
What did I walk into this morning? I'll blame Nate. Hi, Nate.
Yeah, Apostate Nate and Reggie's with us. How you doing, Reggie? If you get off work or whatever the situation, he always has like 15 minutes at max that he can talk, and then I forget to throw him up. Request to speak, and I'll throw it up immediately. So we've almost hit 2 hours. That's a sweet spot that I like to do, but I think we have at least one more story in us. Shannon, did you want to give a hot take, or did you want to comment on this Iowa senator lady. I'm going to play the. I have the video up, so I can play the audio again, where she basically tells people we're all going to die. If you want to comment on that, or we can go in a different direction.
Oh, I was going to say I watched the Titan submersible documentary last night that just came out on HBO. And they were talking.
Was that about the one that exploded near the Titanic?
Yes. It was the and how messed up the owner was. Like the first Titan, there was a first Titan before the one that imploded that they took to the Bahamas and like proved that the hull was inferior. And then they built another one and named it Titan also, but never tested it in the deep waters before going to Titanic. But the way they described the remains they found, they said it was like you know how the Titan was like two end caps, right? And then there was the cylinder in the middle.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a safe but cheap way to build with some strong materials and then some less strong materials.
Right. And it failed numerous times, like with the guy from Expedition Discovery was on there. That's a TV show. He was on the Titan and they had to abandon it because it started to not work and crack and like make the cracking sounds underneath. And he talks about the whole thing about how he realized he was in a dangerous situation, and he was only like 30 feet under when the thing started to not work. Like the software went bad, and then the motor shut down, and everything went dark, and then they had to tow him back up. But the way they described the remains, they said it was like the end caps just had human remains of a mixing bowl. Everyone was just mixed together when they pulled it out, and they showed like Stockton's shirt. They had the sleeve of his shirt.
You know, I really feel like today's show might be our most family friendly show ever. So we go from well, I guess the first story was fine. What's her name from Iowa saying, "Oh, we're all going to die," and then we go to P Diddy, we go to Woody Allen, we go to Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis, and then we finish up with would you say mixing bowls of humans? What was the way you described the end caps?
Yeah, that's exactly how they describe it. Mixing bowl of human remains. Yeah, it was just all in the end cap.
So this is a people .com article, and I just brought it up because it was at least in theory based on the title along the lines of what you're describing. Investigators were surprised what survived the Titan sub implosion that killed 5. In a new documentary, they detail these findings. It's been nearly 2 years since it happened. As the Coast Guard sifted through the debris, which turned into sludge after the water was removed, officials found parts of the sub, like carbon fiber, fiberglass, and electronic parts, but some other surprising items were found. They also found a piece of Rush's sleeve that was caked inside of sand. Rush must be one of the people on the boat.
He's the owner. Stockton Rush was
he was the owner. Okay.
Pilot.
They also found an ink pen, so a pen, business cards, and stickers for the Titanic. The pen was even still intact.
His shirt pocket. Yeah, the pen was inside his shirt pocket, and that survived. Like the pocket was on the sleeve, and the pen was on the pocket.
Wow, and then there's video here. I'm not going to click on it, but it's just like someone in like a bee suit, like a hazmat suit, sifting through just like a pile of nasty stuff that they found at the bottom.
Yeah. That's on Netflix, by the way. It's called The Ocean Gate Disaster.
Make sure you got your kids at home wondering what you're going to do with them. Well, flip on Netflix. It doesn't talk about the mixing bowl of human remains.
Yeah, that's the woman comes on after when they're showing like the sleeve, and she's like, it was just like that's where the remains gathered because the two end caps are really the old things that were left. So it was just like, yeah. It's really
Yeah,
sad.
here's a picture of one of the ends just resting on the bottom of the ocean floor. So those end caps, like you were saying.
Yeah, the two ends survived, and the middle just imploded inside. Yeah. And I mean, the boat that was above them, you know, the one that they were tethered to, they heard the explosion, then got a message from the sub, because the sound of the implosion traveled faster than the message that was going up
And the
the cable.
message is like, everything's
The message
great,
was,
couldn't be
"We're
better.
Yeah, the message was, "We're dropping 2 weights." That was it. And yeah, they heard the implosion, then got a message that we're dropping 2 weights, meaning they were rising, they were coming back up, and they hadn't reached the Titanic yet. And yeah,
Oh, really? So they
that
were
whole thing.
rising before they reached the Titanic. So that indicated that something was wrong.
Right, right. Because the
Wow.
last message was, "We're dropping 2 weights." So yeah.
Yeah.
But they were pretty close to
Well,
the Titanic. I mean, they were like 5,000 feet away or something.
it would have been really interesting if they had imploded like on top of the Titanic, like they were looking down, and so they would have like fallen into the Titanic. So it would have been like, because it's weird that people died while surveying the wreck of, you know, a ship where hundreds of people died, but it would have been even odder if you can imagine a story where like their remains came to rest next to the, there's probably not any remains left on the Titanic unless they were somehow locked away in something. But you get what I mean. Like, so I didn't realize
Right.
they were a little far away from the Titanic. So if they just made it a little bit further, it would have made kind of a better. So if they redo the story in like some sort of Hollywood film, it'll probably implode like directly over the Titanic. And then like it'll show that sleeve with the pen coming to rest right on like the deck chair of the Titanic or something.
Well, I mean, there has to be like DNA, right? Because there's still like shoes and personal clothing and
Yeah,
other
yeah, I've
things
seen
left
those
over, right?
photos
I
where it
mean,
shows the shoes on the ground because
yeah,
someone died and then the shoes were all that was left.
right. So I mean, there still could be considered human remains, but there might not be bones or. I mean, I don't know how long DNA lasts. I'm sure it goes away eventually, but if there's still property from them, there's still possibility. Especially,
Yeah, I'm sure
like,
somewhere in there. Plus, like, I don't know, it's been so long, it's been more than 100
right,
years, but you can imagine maybe there's somewhere where some piece of metal got wedged just right that it like
right,
encased someone's body. And even though there's water everywhere, there's like a little bit, you know, like I don't mean to be morbid, but you could imagine there's probably something in there that if you really tore it apart piece by piece, you would find something more than just clothes and shoes.
right. Yeah. Right. If it was just right, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a big ship. I mean, it wasn't, and it's pretty intact on, or it was pretty intact on the line.
Two pieces, right? Because it's split in half. But then
Right.
I read something. Oh, in the last 10 years, they said that they didn't know how much longer it was going to last because I think that eventually the sea just like disintegrates everything and it's going to collapse in on itself or something like that.
Right. The back end's almost completely gone. That was the one that actually crushed. And then the photos
Okay.
we see are the front end. Yes. It's a little bit further away than the front end that we
Yeah,
always
the
see.
pieces are separate because they,
Right.
as I remember from the Titanic movie, which is a documentary film. So it was sliding in to the water and then the top broke off. And then so they actually sank as separate pieces. And so, of course, they ended up at different spots as opposed to if it had somehow broke while it was sinking, in which case you would imagine they would be closer together. Which all of this, interesting way to wrap this all up in a bow, is that now is the time. If you ever wanted to go see the Titanic, see it now before it gets even worse, which is why these sort of submersible trips are possible in the first place. If it was a little different and the ship had been in a better state, and we weren't getting these reports that, oh, the Titanic's only going to last so much longer in its current form, maybe a few people would be less likely to go down there. I think now it's got that sort of not forbidden fruit, but isn't going to last forever vibe. And therefore, you got to check it out while the checking out's still good.
Yeah, I'm good with the robots going down there, and they can take pictures for me. I'm good with that.
You know what, Shannon? This is my final question to you, and then we'll wrap up. You have told me previously that you would not accept a dinner invitation to the White House with Donald Trump being the president. Would you accept an all expenses paid trip to the bottom of the ocean to see the Titanic with your own eyes, but it was a real submersible piloted by none other than James Cameron? So you know he's coming back alive.
Yes, I've seen those submersibles. Yes, I would go down in that.
That's all I wanted to hear.
But
so you won't make a reasonable trip to Washington, D.C. on like American Airlines, but you will fly to you could fly to like Washington, D.C., then jump on a boat and then go out to the middle of the Atlantic and then go down with James Cameron in a submersible.
Why would I want to go to Washington? I live in Connecticut. I'm closer to the Titanic than Washington is.
Okay, so you could just drive to the coast and hop on a boat, whatever the situation is. You're ruining my story, Shannon. Really? Realistically, you'd rather go down with James Cameron to see the Titanic than accept a perfectly safe invitation to the White House to eat McDonald's with President Trump.
Who says it's safe? I could choke. Nothing's
That's
guaranteed.
Right. Meeting Trump with a McChicken in your hand might be a little bit more dangerous than going down to the bottom of the ocean with James Cameron.
That's it. I could choke on a chicken nugget, Who knows?
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, I'd have a really hard time with that because I don't like enclosed spaces. And 4 hours down, 4 hours back, with nowhere to pee. Not that I pee often, but
Oh yeah, how does that work? Most people would have to go to the bathroom in an 8-hour period.
Diapers, and well, in the James Cameron submersible, yeah. But in the
diapers?
In the Ocean Gate, they had a bucket in the front with a curtain that you closed.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
That is a terrible idea.
I think I'd rather do diapers.
I think I would too.
Because just imagine like James Cameron's at the controls and he's like, uh-oh, we got a little bit of ocean turbulence. What? And then the bucket just... yeah, that's not a good idea.
Had a bucket in the front with like a window that's the only window that they could look out. And then, yeah, that was where the bucket was. And then they had a little curtain that you could pull off.
I mean, but do we know for a fact, did the Titan submersible have a bucket? Do you think it's possible? Could we throw out a conspiracy theory here? Is that someone had such bad aim that while they were peeing in the bucket, they accidentally hit some electronics and then there was some sort of failure and that's when the implosion happened? Can we blame all this on urine?
I mean, we could say Stockton Rush was using the bathroom and he was holding the controller, which is just a PlayStation controller, and dropped it in the bucket.
Yeah. He had the controller in one hand and his Johnson in the other hand. And there was some cross-contamination. And then it all went south. Reggie has tweeted, would you rather go to the bottom of the ocean piloted by Joe Biden? Oh, that's an interesting twist. Or take an equally long flight piloted by Donald Trump?
Can I just jump in with some sharks or something instead? Can I have a third option?
Can I choke on a chicken McNugget? Yeah. I think I would take the flight piloted by Trump because there would be a co-pilot. And I feel like the AI that we've had on planes, the automated systems, aside from like takeoff and landing, I think it's mostly automated. So I feel like there's more of a chance of survival there than an ocean trip piloted by Joe Biden. You know what?
But you know, Reggie, if you give me a third option, I'll worship your donut Earth and the Mother Baker.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember those discussions. Hey, Apostate Nate's with us. He's been with us throughout the show, but he hasn't been able to talk. Apostate Nate, why don't you send us off? What do you want to say?
Lee, that has to be the weirdest conversation I have ever heard on a news debate show. And I want you to know that I want weird conversations like that to happen on the regular. I was so entertained. It was like I could not predict where that conversation was going to go next. I mean, it was like watching something zigzag erratically in time and space, Lee. It was a phenom. You will never top this show.
So what I'm hearing is that you want more Woody Allen talk. Is that what the he was banging a woman for 12 years and then fell in love with her adopted daughter the second she became an adult. Not a second before, but just a second after.
We didn't even get into the Tate brothers. See, we could save that for the next show.
Yeah, Shannon, Andrew Tate makes videos and he puts them on the internet on purpose, saying things like, I'm too smart to read books, or data and information are not important. It's Lee, you can't imagine, and I'm mildly shocked that you're not more aware of who Andrew Tate is and what his character is.
I know he's like a former MMA fighter who's into like female domination. Like you have to like take women and show them how to be loved and stuff like that. And then he like was in Romania and he got arrested and all this other stuff. I mean, I generally know.
Lee, imagine taking advice from a guy. Imagine importing a guy who lost his final appeal in a Romanian court and was awaiting sentencing. Okay, he was headed for jail, Lee. He was facing up to 20 years in a Romanian prison. The Trump administration was like, you know what? We'll take that. Why? Like, I'm not a Trump supporter, but if I were, that would still disgust me. There's nothing redeemable about the Tates or Myron Gaines.
Well, I don't like them based on what little I know about them, so I will agree with you there. But I don't know anything about the evidence. So sort of going back to what Shalom was saying, like just because he's a terrible person, and apparently he does speak a lot about having to like dominate women and how men have to control women and that sort of a thing, that doesn't equal rape or sex trafficking. And I don't know any of the details of that end of the discussion. So, I got to walk the walk and talk the talk, as I've said throughout today's show. Like if there's not a conviction, and especially like I'm just guessing in Romania, the court system isn't great, right? Like usually isn't in sort of developing countries, even though Romania is not like the Congo or something like that. So I don't know. I need to learn more about that. I don't know what the evidence is. I don't even know really what they're accused of other than some headlines. So,
I mean, one of the things he said was like, I prefer 19-year-olds, old women over old women due to them being fresh, and easier for him to put his imprint on.
Once again, not someone I like or would endorse, but does that equal rape and sex trafficking?
Well, he's not going to say I like 14-year-olds. He's going to keep it for because that was on his podcast. He's not going to say that.
What if he said, I like underage women, but only when they're old enough that I can break up with their mothers and then marry them? Because if he had said that, he could be a successful Hollywood director.
He could be, at least in the 70s.
It's like, once again, like, Andrew Tate says a lot more things than Woody Allen to make you hate him. But in the end, Woody Allen, in my mind, probably could have been convicted of some sort of rape or possession of, underage materials or something like that. I think that's decently plausible, let alone molesting a 7-year-old child that still as an adult says actually happened. And he never went to jail. So he did himself some favors by not acting like Andrew Tate. But, you got to look at the crimes. So it's not a crime to talk the way that Andrew Tate talks. It's probably not a good idea to hang out in Romania when you're someone who's really hated, but that in and of itself isn't a crime either. So I don't know. We could do Andrew Tate. We could have that discussion if that's what someone wants to do as a hot take. But I would like to see some actual evidence, because I certainly know in the court of public opinion, Andrew Tate is about ready to be hanged. But when it comes to an actual court and actual evidence, I don't know. I mean, if you're like a rapist and a sex trafficker, like do you talk about that sort of thing in your professional life, or do you try to hide it, sort of like an Epstein? Epstein makes way more sense to me than an Andrew Tate, because he didn't talk like Andrew Tate. He just had like a sex island and was super rich and apparently was a really horrible, terrible guy. That makes a lot more sense to me. A Woody Allen makes a lot more sense to me. He is attracted to his girlfriend's adopted daughter, and in my mind probably acted on that before she was an adult, but then claims that, oh no, I was never a parental figure. That all makes sense to me. He's trying to get us on his side and say he didn't do anything wrong. Would you talk like Andrew Tate if you were actually a rapist and you were into sex trafficking? Maybe you do. Maybe that's how much you are into that stuff, that it's how you act behind closed doors, and it's how you talk in front of the camera. But I don't know. I feel like it's like a Dexter thing. If anyone has read the Dexter books or seen the Dexter TV show, he's supposed to be a normal guy, but then he's a serial killer. I think that's how most of that works. I don't think someone who's a pedophile runs around talking about being a pedophile. Like, isn't that stuff hidden? So whenever I see someone who is really over the top, like, I don't know, what's his name from InfoWars, that horrible guy, with the Sandy Hook and the billions of dollars judgment and all that stuff. Like, he's so over. Say it again.
Oh, no. Why can't I remember his name? Oh, Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh. But whatever his name is, like, he's so over the top. I don't assume that he's like murdering people. I think that's how he is. He might actually be kind of reserved when he's not in front of camera, because he's larger than life in front of the camera. So to imagine Andrew Tate is a terrible person in front of the camera, and he's also got all of these other sex trafficking things going on, I don't know. It kind of just seems too much to me. So it could absolutely be. But like, when you look at P. Diddy, it looks like P. Diddy's probably guilty of a lot of terrible things. But he was a rapper and producer and full of himself and very self-confident and very flashy. But all the things he's accused of doing, he didn't talk about that in front of the public, right? So that makes more sense to me than an Andrew Tate.
Yeah, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones. Thank you, Reggie. Yes, Alex Jones.
No, I'm Shannon.
Yeah. Well, he also tweeted it. I thought you saw it. But so you said it, and then he tweeted it. Lee, I'm Shannon. I'm not Reggie.
Right now, the UK charges that they just brought are human trafficking, the trafficking of minors, sex with a minor, and money laundering. That's what they're bringing against them in the UK.
Could be. These are all things that could be, but it's just, I don't know. Alex Jones, Andrew Tate might be someone who's an idiot, but someone who runs the social media thing that he had going and was also an MMA fighter, he also has to be not an idiot, because he's become successful and he runs a business and he makes money. So at a certain level, he's not an idiot. Maybe he is just idiotic at enough things that he did not hide what he was doing very well. But I don't know. It just seems too much on the nose for me. I think it's more often the guy that has the sex dungeon that you don't know about, as opposed to the guy who has a big sign on his house that says "sex dungeon here." And that's more of an Andrew Tate. Sorry, Apostate Nate, your hand has been up a long time.
Hey, yeah, Lee, just I guess for some clarity on the legal matters, I'm just reporting things to you as I had read them as this story developed. So I'm not saying that I know for sure that he's guilty of everything the Romanian government says he is. But I can say this, just based off of what he says, the way he talks, especially about women, he's a bad actor. And I think any administration that flirts with bad actors like this shows its hand, shows its value system. I mean, they had Conor McGregor, another suspicious person of suspicious moral character, as a guest in the White House. Kid Rock certainly didn't live the life of a priest or a monk, and he shows up to the White House.
But Kid Rock Kid Rock is a rock star. I mean, Democrats are friends with rock stars too.
No, they are.
Not
What I'm
Kid
talking
Rock.
about is I think what I'm talking about here is just the extent to what, to me, this is just another piece in the puzzle, Lee. That's all. It's not to say that the other side's not guilty of crimes here, but this
Epstein was
administration.
friends with a lot of Democrats. Speaking of the Democrats,
Sure.
yeah, but I get the point you're making. As I talk about, Woody Allen's actions tells me a lot about Woody Allen. It tells me less, but it tells me a little bit about Bill Belichick, because once again, those are two very different circumstances. But the Donald Trump situation, if you didn't already have a reason to hate Donald Trump, if they went out of their way to rescue Andrew Tate and or his brother, that tells you a lot about them. Now, I would say that's not a move to protect potential rapists and sex traffickers. That's a move to protect someone who is popular with conservatives online. That's a political move as opposed to protecting their alleged actions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so, Lee. I think that strikes me as sort of a balanced view of it. Sure, I agree.
And in that case, I can sort of understand and condone it, because Joe Biden broke precedent and pardoned members of his own family, had these wide ranging pardons, and he's not endorsing. One second. I think my stream went down.
Yeah, I was going to say we couldn't hear you. Now I can hear you.
Yeah, but you can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Shannon, by the way, your PFP is great. Don't you ever change that.
Thank you.
What's PFP? I'm not hip. I don't know what that is.
The avatar.
Yes. I noticed the new one. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we're all mad here.
What was I saying here before my internet hit the fan? Oh yes, so the Democrats, they make political moves too. Joe Biden is not endorsing crack cocaine use and all the other things that his horrible son did. He's trying to protect his son. So that's political. That's family. That's politics. It's about the same thing. So that's actually a really good point. Joe Biden protecting Hunter Biden, I think in many ways is worse than the Trump administration, from what I understand. I don't know this for a fact, but the Trump administration trying to help the Tate brother or brothers. That's not a family connection. That's a very clear political move. Joe Biden turned his back on America to protect his son after he said he would not. I think that's much worse. Now, once again, one sin doesn't forgive the other. So it's not as if, the Republicans get off because Joe Biden, in my book, was worse. But it just shows you how things work in the United States. And once again, we both seem to agree this was more about protecting someone that conservatives like, as opposed to protecting someone who is a rapist, potentially some sort of sex trafficker. So I'm over on ChatGPT now. Let me share this, and this might be the last final thing. Come on, ChatGPT.
Well, Matt Gaetz too, right? That's why he didn't get, what was he up for, Attorney General?
Yeah, he apparently had, well, this was a congressional report. He's never been charged
Right.
with anything. Was it had
Absolutely.
sex with a minor who's maybe like, was it 15? Was it 17?
I think
Paid
it
for
was
sex?
17.
Something like
Yeah.
that. And what else did they say? Were there other things? I think the congressional report said that there was evidence that that had happened, which was
I'm sure I
weird
did.
because I think they knew about that when they nominated him and they did it anyways. That was a strange situation.
But he's running for governor now down in Florida against DeSantis.
Oh, is DeSantis still running? I thought he was done and his wife was going to potentially run.
Oh, I don't. I think it's still too early for that. But he put out, that he wants to run for governor in Florida, and he's down there.
Well, he might
Yeah.
win. Once
I don't
again,
know
he's
about
not
DeSantis.
convicted of a crime. He hasn't been charged with a crime. I could imagine he might win. Yeah. But really quickly, so according to ChatGPT, yes, Andrew Tate faces multiple serious criminal charges in both the UK and Romania, including rape, human trafficking, and assault. The evidence against him comprises testimonies from alleged victims, digital communication, and documented patterns of coercive behavior. Yeah, that's the thing. It goes to his character, the documented patterns of coercive behavior. He basically talks about women in regards to how you can coerce them with your aggressive behavior. So, once again, he's not doing himself any favors. British authorities have officially charged Andrew and his brother Tristan with 21 offenses. That includes rape, human trafficking, actual bodily harm. I assume that's like assault, and controlling prostitution for gain. Okay, so that's maybe what they mean by human trafficking, is being involved in some sort of prostitution business. These charges involve allegations from 4 women, 3 related to Andrew and 1 to Tristan, stemming from incidents between 2012 and 2015 in Bedfordshire, where the brothers grew up. Okay, I didn't realize they were British. One civil claim details an incident where Andrew Tate allegedly pointed a gun at a woman's face. In Romania, the Tates were arrested in December 2022 and indicted in June 2023 for forming an organized criminal group, human trafficking, and rape. Prosecutors allege that they coerced women into sex work through manipulation and threats. However, in November 2024, a Romanian appeals court ruled that the case could not proceed to trial due to procedural irregularities, including the improper handling of evidence and failure to adequately inform the defendants of the charges. The case remains open, and prosecutors may amend the charges or present new evidence. Well, it's hard to argue with that. If Romania's own courts say that it wasn't handled well, that's unfortunate, but yeah, that happens a lot in the US as well. While in custody, the Tates have been accused of attempting to intimidate and silence victims and critics. That I do believe. They seem like people who would intimidate and tell people to shut the hell up or they'll murder them. Lawyers for 2 alleged victims submitted evidence suggesting the brothers orchestrated harassment campaigns from prison, including hiring private investigators and directing associates to produce defamatory contents. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff. It's more than I ever knew about them. It's just something I've purposely tried to avoid. But when you say things like human trafficking, that makes you sound like you're selling like children into sex slavery. But I think a lot of the time, human trafficking gets rolled into prostitution, especially in a place like Europe where the countries are small and there's a lot of movement of people across all of the EU and other parts of Europe. So, if you coerce someone or physically transport them from one country to another for prostitution, that's human trafficking, I think, versus if you do it in one country, it's being involved in prostitution. It might be some sort of rape situation for forcing someone into it or coercing them. But human trafficking sounds really bad because human trafficking is one of the worst things that you can do. But also, it's like in the United States, if you kidnap someone and transport them over state lines, I think that's like a way worse crime than if you do it just in your state, or if you move a minor across state lines. Like if you're in a divorce situation and you take your child and run and you go across state lines, like that's a huge crime versus just doing it in your own state. And a lot of those things can be described in a way that sounds a lot worse than it actually is, not to demean the charge of rape or coercion into prostitution, but human trafficking, I feel like, is the worst charge there. That's the one that I always remembered hearing about. And that sounds like they're selling children into sex slavery, but it might also just be that all the other things they're accused of involved some sort of border crossing or enticing someone to come to Romania from another country. And then once they get there, not letting them leave or something like that. I'm just making all this up based on what I've heard before. Okay, so that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he invited them there and then took their passports so they had no way to leave.
So if he did that, that's a crime and that's horrible and that should be prosecuted. But to call that human trafficking, I think it dilutes human trafficking standards. Just like if you call Trump a Nazi or call Republicans Nazis, I don't think you really understand what a Nazi is if you say that. And so that would be my one criticism here, is that because of the way Andrew Tate, and I assume his brother, but at least him specifically, because of the way they talk about women and the way they just talk in general on social media, I think they're not being done any favors by the journalists who are reporting on them and not giving context to some of these headlines, which is hard to do because it's a headline. It lacks context. But I've seen a lot of the human trafficking being reported as opposed to all these other things that you could lead with and explain what the human trafficking means. That's a small criticism. If it turns out there's a lot of evidence and they're convicted of all these horrible things, it's not really something I care too much about. But once again, if we dilute what human trafficking means, it ruins it for the people who actually are human traffickers. And when they are accused of that, we don't think about it in the same light. Oh, that's the same thing that the Tate brothers did. Yeah, I don't think it really is. But small criticism. Okay, let's do final thoughts. And in my state yesterday, tweets Shannon, emergency services got a call saying a silverback gorilla was shot with tranquilizer and was being taken to a human hospital for cardiac arrest. Wow. Maybe it was a gorilla that was fighting 100 men. Have you heard that hypothetical, Shannon?
I have. Yes. Maybe that was. Hell, maybe it was Bigfoot. We have big laws against that because we have the chimpanzee that ripped off that woman's face and ripped off her arms and face. And
oh, that was in Connecticut. There's like a 911 call. The person's like, that lady ain't got no face.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. We have big laws against that since that happened about, chimps and monkeys and stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah. And people believe it.
Let's have our final comment from Donald Trump, and then we'll get comments from everybody else, and we'll wrap up the show. Mr. President, who would win, a gorilla or 100 men?
That's a ridiculous question, folks, but I'll tell you, I've made some of the greatest deals, with guys who are tougher than any gorilla, and I've come out on top every time. So if it's a gorilla versus 100 men, I'd put my money on the men because we're Americans and we're winners.
That was a really great answer. I thought he was going to sidestep that, but then he went right back into it. So it's not the 100 men, it's not the gorilla, but it's the one man who can broker a deal between the 100 men and a gorilla who is king, or I guess in this example, president of the United States. Okay, let's do final thoughts. And then Apostate Nate, did you want to give us an update? Do you have time for that now, or we can do that later?
No, I do. I can give it to you. The only final thought that I would attach to the show here, Lee, is that as a patron at like the producer level or whatever it's called, I will be cooking up some really weird topics like the Woody Allen one. Pending your final approval, of course.
Yeah, let's promote the producer level at the patreon.com/NEWZ debate. If you support the show for that much every month, you can choose topics. It has to be approved because otherwise someone's going to be like, talk about this crazy thing. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's all right. But within reason, and especially if you're a friend of the show, who I know, I don't think I'm going to shoot much down. And we'll just do an entire show on that topic. We might not cover it for 2 hours, but we'll cover it. I think it says for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, wherever the fine print says. Yeah, if this was your bag, if you want to talk about more horrible things from Hollywood and rich people, involving very, very bad decision making choices, that is allowed at the producer category and higher. Patreon.com/NEWZ debate. Back to you, Nate.
And so here's the update for me, Lee. I had had a rough 5 months. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but my ex-wife thought it would be a good idea to tell me the day after Christmas that she was dating somebody. I got a call that
I do
morning,
remember you telling me that, yeah.
Oh, and that sent me into just a severe. I mean, my on my chart, my depression diagnosis was upgraded to severe. I mean, I would either not sleep or sleep too much. Shows of yours that I wanted to make, I couldn't because I was sleeping. And this happened over and over, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, Lee. I am here to announce that I have a girlfriend now. And she has decided to date me on purpose. Imagine that. This is a willful decision on her part, poor girl.
Yeah, this is no coercive Andrew Tate stuff. This was fully justifiable relationship stuff. Wow, this is great. Did you meet on an app?
Yeah, we met on Facebook dating, of all the apps. I was on like OkCupid. I tried out something else. I can't remember it. And they were just disasters. They're really just designed to squeeze money out of you for maybe access to somebody. It's like a service you pay for, and then the service does its darndest to hide all of the information. Facebook dating wasn't as bad, namely because it's free if you have a Facebook account. And quite honestly, since it is
Can you
free,
explain Facebook dating? I've never, I heard some rumblings that this was a thing, but I've never read about it. I've never talked to anyone that used it. How does it work, and how is it different from some more tradition? It's weird to say traditional when talking about apps, but some more tried and true dating apps.
Sure, I can answer that. It is very much like the other dating apps where you would swipe left to say no and swipe right. Tinder's use of this, I think, has caught on big, and so Facebook dating uses this, like OkCupid uses it. Now, as far as payments, again, Facebook is free for users if they want it to be free, and that includes Facebook dating. And that's probably the biggest difference, is that I'm not being nickel and dime to death on I'll try to meet somebody. I would be on another site where, say, you pay extra to have your profile privileged in their algorithm. Otherwise, they just Facebook isn't charging for this service, so I'm assuming that the app works a little bit differently. Definitely got more attention on the Facebook than other dating apps, and I think the reason is that it's just no cost. Functionally, it's very, very similar to what you can pay.
So, if I understand correctly, a normal, typical dating app, I've not really used them. I think I tried them once or twice and made an account just to see how it worked many years ago. But I'm familiar with the Tinder swipe left, swipe right. You said it's like that. And is it just anyone who opts into Facebook dating, like you said, for free, is on it? So does that mean that there's a crap ton of people on it because it's free and everybody has Facebook already?
Yeah, I got into Facebook dating like literally, I think the day that they launched it, and obviously there weren't a ton of users that day, and I deactivated it for a while because I was just getting frustrated with the whole scene. And when I came back, Lee, there were millions who had in my absence. Still, if you've been like on a law, like how many people have signed up for the service since left?
So this is facebook.com/dating. I have this up on my video streams. Go to bit.ly/NEWZ debate for all my links, including my video streams. Find love through what you like. Create your dating profile today. People who like what you like Now, the groups you're in and the events you go to can help you meet people with similar interests. Your Facebook dating profile and conversations won't be shared with anyone outside of dating as like capital D, so Facebook dating. And everything you need to start your separate dating profile is already on the app that you know. So I'm guessing it takes your information from your Facebook profile, like the groups you're a part of, the events you have said you're going to or went to, and then it puts that into some sort of digital spreadsheet algorithm for the Facebook dating app. And your messages on Facebook dating sound like they're different than your messages on Facebook or Messenger, as some people have the separate app. Facebook has really turned into a messaging app for a lot of people, including myself. I don't use Facebook that much anymore, but I use the messaging app all the time. And yeah, it's free, and you can just sign up with your current account. And I guess there's not a lot of stuff that you have to fill out. But then how does it work, Nate? So when you go through, you can just send a message or like wink at someone, and then they have the option to reply or wink back at you. There's no specific, like only women can message, like one app that people have talked about on the show previously.
Yeah, there's no messages can go in either direction. You can either simply like a photo, or you can like and actually say something about a photo. From what I understand, and from what I was reading about how to be successful on these apps, well, never mind. There goes my train of thought, Lee. But that's no matter. Lee, did you hear me?
So like when you do your Facebook dating profile, you get to choose what photo, right? So you like pick the best possible photo of you, like you maximized it.
Yeah, I do that. And I would put up, I think I maybe had like 8 or 10 photos, because again, it's the more photos you have, statistically, the better odds you have of getting some attention. And some people don't even have any. Like some people will have a photo of like the ocean as their photo.
Oh, that's terrible. It's terrible. Oh man. Oh,
like their dog,
okay. So you went about this. You said you tried to maximize and stuff. So when you found someone you were interested in, did you like really put a lot of time and effort into the exact message that you wanted to send? Like, what does that mean, maximizing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would tailor messages to the person. I would say something about one of their interests or what they were wearing. I would just take every piece of data, photographic or in text, that they can provide, and you do get to write up your own little unique bio. My girlfriend especially liked the bottom parts of my bio, which said no MAGA and no religious fundamentalists. She said she was pretty sold on that part.
Wow, a match made not in heaven. See what I did there? So is she, you're pretty anti-religion, you're pretty anti-MAGA. Is she anti that stuff as well, or just not into religion as much as some people?
She's anti-religion, as am I, but it's not like her project like it is mine. And for the simple reason that it just simply wasn't her history like it was mine. But yeah, she has no use for religious fundamentalists or diehard MAGA. And I don't know. I mean, really, I don't think I could date someone with such different views on, monumental topics like that. There's got to be some compatibility.
I don't know. Sometimes opposites attract, but I get what you're saying. Okay, so that's a great update. Sometime, maybe for your show, producer and above on patreon.com/NEWZ debate, they can pick one show every month. So if you want to do a show on Facebook dating, or if you want to do a show on, I don't know, Woody Allen or whatever, go crazy. Let me know your topic and we'll schedule it. But I would like to cover Facebook dating more, because I think Facebook dating is a really interesting take as opposed to an app you have to download and fill out. Facebook dating is interesting because most people who use it would already have that Facebook accounts and they already understand how Facebook works. There's some trust there. I think there's some I understand this. It's not something new. So just like when Amazon was like, we have music and we have Amazon Prime Video. It's like, well, if you were already using Amazon, it's easier to go to their video or whatever else they offer, their audiobooks, than go to a completely different service and have to understand it and get comfortable with it. So we could do a show on dating apps. We could do a show on your experience doing Facebook dating. I want to continue these conversations, but I do have to wrap up the show, and I want to hear more about your experience. Great experience. Congrats. That's awesome. So let's table that for the future. Shannon has been waiting patiently. I want to give her final thoughts, and then we have another person who's a speaker over on Twitter Spaces. We'll give them their first and final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up the show. But back to you, Shannon.
Yeah, it must be tougher for guys because I have OkCupid and I've been on several dates and I don't pay. So it must be tougher for guys.
You piece of shit, Shannon. God damn it.
And my first line in there is, if you're MAGA, don't even bother to message me.
Kindly go to hell, Shannon. Thank you.
No, I'm just saying it must be
Kindly go
easier
to
for
hell.
women than it is for men.
Well, it's
That's
easier
my
for
final
women
thought.
because men have such bigger sex drives, and that's all we think about. And so that's why I mentioned the app previously. Is it Bumble? There's an app where only women can message you, which I think is a fantastic idea. But it just goes to show how much easier it is for women on dating apps than men. Generally, I think that's the case. But then also you have the actual date, where I think the man is the one who's trying to seal the deal and therefore often, if not pretty much always, pays. Have you been on a date from a dating app, Shannon, where the man asks to split it, or was it always, I will pay for this date?
No, I offer when the bill comes. I always have money to pay for my portion. I don't expect anyone to do it. But it's not usual. Usually the guy pays. Probably because I offered to pay. Because when you go to the restaurant, they'll usually put it towards more of the guy's side than the woman's side. You know, when they deliver the bill.
Yeah, they know how it works. Yeah.
Right.
I'm just waiting for some guy to be like, no, don't you worry about this, Shannon. I'll take care of the bill tonight. You'll work off that money later tonight.
Especially if it's a first date, second date. So like, where you don't even really know each other because you've met on an app. You've never even really met in person.
I'm really fascinated. I didn't know that you were on dating apps. I want to do a dating app show. So if that's what you're thinking, Apostate Nate, we can do that. We don't have to. I'll probably do it no matter what. But I would like at some point to really break down dating app experiences, talk about the new ones, talk about the history, because there was a time when Tinder was like the game in town and there wasn't a lot of other stuff. I mean, there was a time when Tinder was an actual dating app. Now it's just a BJF buddy app, but it was an actual dating app back in the past. I guarantee if you've been using dating apps long enough, you remember when Tinder was a legit non-crazy sex app. We can talk about the history. We can talk about people's experiences, which apps work better and why, which apps don't work as well as why. When Apostate Nate went out on dates, did he pay for them automatically? Did the women offer, like Lady Shannon over there, who always offers but fully accepts that the men are going to say, no, I'll pay for it because that's how our society works? This is fantastic stuff. But I do have to wrap up. I'm against a hard deadline here. Really good show. Great to have you guys. Apostate Nate, I appreciate you throwing in at the end because you were joining us throughout the show and you had told me beforehand that you probably wouldn't be able to join with your voice. So it was great to hear from you. Shannon, as always great to have you on. Lord Reggie, we didn't hear from you today, but you were tweeting out some things. Appreciated that. And everybody over on Stereo, it was Ella, who told us the unfortunate story of her mom's boyfriend assaulting her, and Sports Rumble, who didn't say crazy things today. Sports Rumble, he's not listening now because my stereo device died. But I got to say, this was one of my better interactions with Sports Rumble. So he brought it on the show today. And I got to give it to Shalom. Didn't agree with him as he was kind of defending some guys who are not very great in my mind. But at least he made it interesting. He gave us some food for thought. So that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate everybody. Check out bit.ly/NEWZ debates to find all my links. And if you like the show and want to support more great content, patreon.com/NEWZ NEWZ Debate. And I appreciate all my Patreon supporters like Shannon and Apostate Nate. And let me get this list. Better Vibes, Lola. Oh, this is too small. Make it a little bit bigger.
Hey, Lee, have you heard from Patrice?
Sneaky Elbow, Ron, MC Funk, Bjorn, and Patrice. Yes, no, I have not heard from Patrice for a long time, but she has definitely locked in her Patreon support.
No, I was just curious. I haven't heard from her since around Christmas, and we were talking, and then she kind of disappeared. So
Same with me. Same with me. Yeah, I think sometimes people go in waves, and maybe we'll have Patrice back on the show again. Maybe we won't, but you know, my interactions with her in the past have also been a bit wavy. I won't hear from her for a while, and then she'll be all over the show, and then she'll be gone. She'll be all over the show. It sounds like with her multiple homes and all the different stuff, she has a lot of stuff going on. So we wish her all the best. She's a big component of the community and also my Patreon support. So yes, Patrice is always welcome here on the show, whether or not she takes the bait. Big thanks to everybody. I'm going to play us off with some music and take care. I think I'll do a show maybe early next week. I'll post that on Discord and Twitter, and check out all of those links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. Bye-bye.